In today's episode, we talk about Air, Land, and Sea, the card game by Arcane Wonders, and we reflect on the games we've played since the last episode. Stick around and you'll see what's hit our table and should maybe hit yours.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Carlos Cabrera.
Rob Childers.
And we are the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Yep.
And today we're going to talk about Air, Land, and Sea, a little war game, card game that I just recently picked up, and we're going to give our impressions on the game.
Yeah, kind of first impressions. We've got a couple plays under our belt. We haven't played too much, but we've played enough to get a good idea what the game's about. So
I think we've had 2 games between you and I.
Yeah.
And then you've had 2 games with another player.
Yep.
I've had 2 games with another player.
Yeah.
So, we've got 6 games in total between the 2 of us on this game here. Air, Land, and Sea was, looks like it was published in BGG says it was published in 2018. It was designed by John Perry, put out by Arcane Wonders. It's a 15 to 30-minute card game, and it's very low complexity.
Yeah.
BGG's got it rated at a 1.67 for the complexity out of 5.
Pretty low, yeah.
And then it's described as in Air, Land, and Sea. 2 players participate in a series of battles with the objective to control 2 of the 3 theaters of war after both players have played all of their battle cards or convince your opponent to withdraw. And that's the gist of the game. It's a micro game. I don't know if can it be a micro game?
Well, it really is just a deck of cards. There's a couple of
I think it's 18 cards.
Okay, 18. Yeah,
in the deck.
3 different
Theaters.
venues, theaters. Yeah, theaters is the word. And so you're just playing cards out to
some
the theaters.
victory tokens.
Yeah, just some victory points. I mean,
and then the 3 theater cards.
You could calculate victory points just on a napkin or something and keep it that way. You don't even really need the
So it is a micro game. This is definitely something you can put in your pocket, like something that you could take to a bar or pub, take to a restaurant. Pretty much play anywhere.
All you essentially need is just that deck of cards, really. The rest of it's just kind of filler, filling on top of it. So, yeah.
In Air, Land, and Sea, so the way the game is played, in Air, Land, and Sea, you're going to play the role of a Supreme Commander, and you're going to have 6 cards in your hand. And those cards are going to be cards that you can play towards 3 separate theaters of the battle. There's air, there's land, and there's sea. Once all 6 cards have been played, at the end of those 6 cards that are played for each side, you total up the strength that you have in each of those 3 theaters, and the goal is to win 2 out of the 3 theaters to win that battle.
Right.
Each time you play a card face up, the card can have an ability on it that may trigger and allow you to do things like flip down your opponent's cards, move cards to different theaters, or allow you to break rules, like play a card that's maybe an air card in a different theater than you would normally be allowed to, because in this game you have to play air cards in the air theater, land, and sea and in the sea theater. But there are rules that can be broken using the special ability of cards.
Yep. I think, as you said, so there's the 3 different theaters, the sets of cards. There's 1 through 6, so they're numbered, so they have a power 1 through 6. The lower number cards tend to have a better ability on them, so there's a temptation to play them maybe face down to make them worth 2 points instead of 1 or 2.
Because of the back of the card.
Right, so if you play them face down, you can play any card face down and just take it for a basic 2 value.
In any theater.
Of any theater, right. And that way you don't have to play it to necessarily the theater that is displayed on the other side of the card. But each one, again, they go 1 to 6. So there's, I think you mentioned 18 cards total. So what you do at the beginning, again, is you deal each person 6. So then 6 cards are buried and aren't used in that round or that game. So it's definitely imperfect information. You really don't know what your opponent might have. And so 6 of those cards are over there, 6 of them are with me, and then 6 of them are set aside. And then you take turns alternating first player in the different battles. And so you play a card, play a card, play a card, back and forth until, like you say, you always have the option to withdraw. And depending on how far you are into the card play, the later you take to withdraw, the more points the opponent gets. So if you withdraw very early within the first 1 or 2 cards, I think it's usually you're just giving your opponent 2 points. If you wait and play it all the way through to the last, either the last card or the next to last card, it's 6 points, which is the ultimate value. So you got to make that decision. If you're going to withdraw, if you think you have a weak hand, your opponent has better cards, then you got to make that decision early to kind of hop out so you don't lose 5 or 6 points.
That's what I liked about the description, because it talks about winning the battle to win the game, getting the points, or convincing your opponent to give up.
To withdraw.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was part of the fun for me. It felt a little bit pokerish in where I'm like, okay, I got to keep a strong face. I got to pretend like I got a really good hand here. And the next 3 cards, I'm going to get this win. So it's kind of that bluffing aspect of, I literally would say, hey, Rob, you really might want to give up right now, because these 3 cards, they're going to end up winning it for me. And then I watch you start doing the math on the table.
Start figuring it out.
What are the odds that I have those cards that are going to give me the victory in these 2 theaters for sure?
Right.
And make that decision on whether or not you want to give up or play it all the way to the end, but give me more victory points.
Yeah, and the powers on the cards really mix things up, because, you see a lot of these types of games where you've just got the 1 through 6, but then the special abilities, I guess is what I meant, not the powers, but the special abilities on the card are what really mix it up. Because again, the 1 and 2 point cards allow you a lot of times, like maybe flip an opponent's card in one of their theaters, so they may have a card up that has a cool ability on it, but then you play a card that allows you to flip it face down, which then ends that ability for your opponent. And some of the abilities are ongoing. You flip it, and
these are instant, or there's ongoing abilities.
Right. And so some of them with the ongoing, once you play it, unless your opponent can flip it face down, it's usually going to give you some kind of bonus through the end of that combat. And then there's the instant ones. There's some that you play that as soon as you do something, it allows you to do something. As that example that I gave, that allows you to flip your opponent's one of your opponent's cards face down, or one of your cards face up or face down in one of the adjacent theaters. So it's really those powers on the cards that really mix things up, because anybody can do the math and count, hey, this is out there, that's not potential. I know I've got that one locked up, but then playing one of those cards face up, using the ability, flipping somebody's card face down, kind of messing up the math for your opponent, that's where it gets kind of interesting.
I think what's interesting is the cards are double-sided.
Yeah.
Right, so you got the card backs and then the front. On the back of the card, it has a number 2. So it's a value of 2 for every card that can be played in any sector. So when you're looking at your hand and seeing what can my cards do, and you're thinking about flipping your opponent's cards, taking that 6 power, super battleship, and then turning it into flipping it over into a 2.
Yeah.
Right. So you really took and changed the strength differential in that theater.
Yeah.
But then there's a fun card, which I think got me the win twice against you, at least.
Which one are you looking
in
for?
a couple battles. Escalation.
Oh yeah.
The Escalation is a 2-point card. And in this 2-point card of Escalation, it allows you to, it says ongoing, all of your face-down battle cards are now strength 4. So for the majority of the game, I was playing a strategy where I was playing cards face down in different theaters and hoping to feint you in to make you think, okay, he's only got 4 points here. I've got this one locked in. And then because I was second player, I got to play the last card. I dropped that Escalation card at the end. And it said all of my face-down cards are now 4, and I was able to win 2 out of 3 sectors with just face-down cards, not even the powerful 6-pointer or 5-pointer cards.
Right. And there's interesting ones in here. Blockade is an interesting one. It limits the number of cards that can be played in a certain theater. So it's one that if you think you've got one kind of locked up and you want to stop your opponent from being able to play to that theater, then pass you can play that card. The interesting thing is the 3 theaters are laid out next to each other, and so they rotate from game to game. You take one from the end and put it on the other end and then slide everything over. And it does definitely make a difference in the game. Some of these powers, or a lot of these powers, allow you to affect only an adjacent theater. And so when you play it, you kind of have to look at the way the theaters, the land, air, and sea theaters are laid out on the board. And you're hoping on some of these, there was one card that gives you a +3 in each adjacent.
It's an air card.
Okay.
Called Air Support.
Right. That's it.
It gives you +3 to each adjacent theater.
So you're hoping the air is in the middle at that point, because if you can play it to the middle and your opponent can't flip it, then it gives you the extra both in the sea and the land battle, so the +3 on both sides. So that can be real powerful if that combination comes up where the air theater is in the center of the board, and then you can play that and +3 in both of the adjacents. So,
well, if not, then you got to finagle, right?
Right.
You I would take the air power card, the air support card. I would play it face down in the center, which might be a land theater, and then on my next turn, I would take a maneuver type card, which allows you to flip a card over and then flip my air support over. So my air support started in the center theater, which is a land theater, and then I played another card in the following turn, which allowed me to flip that card over, which now brings its ability into play, and it allows it to be active in a theater that it's not tied to.
Right.
So that's another way to get your air support where you need it.
And there's another card that allows you to actually just to physically move a card from one theater to another. So at that point, even if it's face up and it's supposed to be played in the land, when you're moving it, you don't have to stick to that rule anymore. So you could move it to an air or a sea theater. So that's another way you can kind of manipulate the cards once they're up on the table. So
I like this. I like the thoughts. There's a lot of thinking
yeah, for sure.
out of this little package.
Yeah.
Because it's how much information do I want to give you when I'm playing the game to let you know what I'm strong in. Because I know what 6 cards I have. I know what areas or theaters I'm strong in.
Yep.
So if I'm strong in 2 good theaters, I want to get those. But do I want to let you know right up front that I'm strong in those theaters?
Yeah, it's the order that you play the cards and how you choose to do it. Sometimes you want to come out strong and maybe even bluff that you've got a better hand than you do, play a 6 card or a 5 card right off the bat, and then hope your opponent maybe sees that and starts thinking about withdrawing early.
That's part of my thing. I would like to occasionally throw off to a theater that I know I'm obfuscating, I'm giving up on.
Yep.
Just throw there first and early to make you think, okay, that's where he's strong, and that way you start moving your forces there.
Yeah.
But then as the game continues, start playing in the other 2 theaters and try to really lock those in.
Yeah.
You know, that I love that.
I'm definitely liking it. You know, it is light, like I said. When my criticism, I don't know that you agree with me here, is that again, and we haven't played enough to know yet, but I am feeling that again with it just being 18 cards, that I'm feeling that once I've played it 8 or 10 or 12 times, that it's going to be a little repetitious. Again, there's going to be a lot of strategy. There's going to be different things you can do, but it seems for me like this would definitely be a game that I would look for some future expansions in, maybe some new cards, some new concepts, ways to manipulate the cards.
Swap in and out.
Yeah,
You know, you rotate or cycle some cards in.
Right, I would think, you'd want to keep it at 18. I don't see any reason to add more and make the deck any bigger. But yeah, some scenarios maybe that you could add in.
Freshen up the strategies.
Yeah, they could probably get really creative with some of the World War II.
Yeah, that's the artwork is gorgeous on this. It is World War II artwork.
Yep, it is. They've got actual planes and ships and land units that actually
Heavy
match
tanks.
the time. So yep. Heavy tank is there, and then what's the big ship here? Well, there's heavy bombers. I don't see the 6 here for the land. I don't know what the land one is.
Heavy tanks.
Oh, well, that's right.
The
Okay.
6 is heavy tanks. The air
heavy
6
bomber.
is heavy bombers.
And then the C is what I was thinking.
Super battleship, I think it is.
That's what's one I didn't see. I was
Super
looking
battle
for here.
destroyer.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful artwork. I got to say that I think this game, I hear you when you say it's
Super
not
battleship. Yeah.
it needs more
Yeah.
to be able to continue to be played.
Right.
But if you look at it at its core, it's a micro game. It's the kind of game you throw in your pocket for play in small spaces. So it's not going to have that hugeness of a real board game.
Yeah.
But for what they've provided in this set of 18 cards, to me, my gears are spinning as I'm playing the game on how do I win this? Do I give up now? I saw Alex when we played the other night at Cool Stuff. I saw Alex win a game in his next battle with you. So he won the first battle, got 6 victory points. You got to get to 12 to win the game. In his next battle, the first thing he did was immediately withdrew.
Yeah. He didn't even play a card,
like,
I don't
what
think.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he knew he could see that he's not going to win the next one. And then in the next game, he was able to get the win again and capitalize that victory.
Yeah.
Right. So
I think that's where I
the nuances.
I kind of lack in that. I got to learn that. I always want to try to figure out the way to win it. So withdrawing for me is tough because I always think even if I've got a bunch of low 1s and 2s and 3s, I start looking at the abilities and I'm like, oh, well, no, I could probably flip some things. I could probably do some things. So,
but that's a trap.
yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
It's a
yeah.
trap
That's what I
because
say.
they're all 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So it encourages you.
You can do some cool stuff.
I'm always
with
trying to
nothing.
do the puzzle in my head. You got to figure out, all right, even if he's got all the good cards and I've got all these junky low numbers, can I make my powers work? Can I? So I have a problem with that early withdrawal, that early.
You've tended to lose games 12-0.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was going to mention that next. I was going to say it says on the box the 20 minutes is the play time. That can vary quite a bit. I would say 20 minutes is probably pretty accurate on the long side, but it can go a lot quicker because again, if you play fairly quick and you lose and you play all cards, if you go all the way to 6 both times, one person just needs to win 2 battles, and it's 6 points and 6 points again, and you can be done in probably 5 minutes. So it can be really quick. Yeah.
How do you feel about the card? The Supreme Leader card shows the Supreme Commander card tells you with this many cards in your hand,
right?
If you withdraw now, you're going to give away this many points. How does that feel to you in game when it's your turn and you're looking at, okay, I've got 4 cards left, I'm going to give up this many points, or I can keep trying to win?
Well, like I say, that's probably my weakness. Is again, I don't ever look at that. In my mind, I'm always trying to do the puzzle to figure out how I can win. So I don't ever look at the withdrawal. I don't think I looked at that card one time the whole game. I'm always trying.
Oh, really?
I'm always trying to figure out how can I make these cards flip my opponent to the point where I can win. So that's where my I probably need to look at it and think, oh, no, I've got an 80% chance of not winning this time. I'm always looking for that 20% chance that I can flip it and make it happen. So I think that's my biggest flaw.
So it's the opposite for me.
Yeah.
Every time it was my turn to play, I looked over and said, okay, I have 4 cards left in my hand. I will lose 3 if I withdraw right now.
Yeah.
What are the odds that I'll win? And then make that decision on, do I keep going?
Yeah.
That was another decision point in this small game that really enamors me to it.
Yeah, that's something like I say, I probably need to look at more, and that's probably the reason why. But then again, like I even mentioned at one of our games, you had won the first one, and you were up 6-0, so I went all the way to the end. And there was a point there where I could have withdrawn, given you 3 points, put you at 9. But then as I said out loud, well, if I do that, I'm 90% sure I'm going to lose this one at this point. But why not just go ahead and give you the 6 points, let you win? Hey, you won this one 12-0. Let's reset and do it again. Instead of giving you the 9-0 lead, it's like, well, I'm probably going to lose anyway. Now I'm just dragging it out for another couple of games potentially. Let's just lose, reset, do it again. So
here's why. Because for the evening, 2 wins to 0.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes you got to lose the battle. To win the war, and that's the theme of this game. You got to lose the battle to win the war.
Yeah. Again, in my head, going down 9-0, you pretty much have already lost the war. So it's pretty hard to come back.
You can come back. That's not too bad.
No. 9 out
I
of
think
12.
hey, if they're telling me there's a chance, I'm going to keep trying. I never give up, never surrender. Galaxy Quest, right?
Yeah, that's that. So,
but this is within our theme lately, isn't this war game?
Yeah,
but not so war game.
Well, I know you're definitely trying to bridge that gap. So you're trying to. I know you come from a war game background. I've never been so hot on the war game. So you're trying to find that game that's really gonna do it for both of us. I don't know. Again, this one's a good as far as a filler goes.
Right.
So for the
we're not gonna build the evening around this game.
Yeah. So for the quick fix, like you say, if we're standing in line at a convention or we're doing something where we got to kill 15 minutes between games at game night or something like that. This is a great one to have in the bag or in your back pocket and just pull it out. And 2-player only. I don't believe there's any kind of 4-player variant or anything. No, it does say on the box it's 2 players. It says ages 14 and up. That's probably right. To get the full strategy on it, that may be a little on the old side. I mean, probably 10, 11-year-old kid.
Wonder what the retail is on this
pick
one.
it up and play. Yeah, I can't imagine it would be too much. But
I don't remember. I don't think I spent more than $20 on this thing.
Oh yeah, I would hope not. I would think not. So yeah,
I think it was in the $15 range.
There's not a whole lot to it as far as the cards go. I know you've had them sleeved. Let me just pull one out here, and they are a pretty decent. They're rounded corners, which are nice. It's a
linen card.
Yeah, it is a linen card.
It is a quality linen card.
Yeah. I do feel if it wasn't sleeved that it probably would wear, even though the linen is nice. It's not a big, heavy, thick linen. It's it is on the thin side for a linen card.
Still paper.
But yeah. So I feel that if it wasn't sleeved, it would wear pretty quick, and especially if you're taking it to pubs and putting it in your pocket or throwing it in the bag. Definitely a good idea, I think, to have it sleeved.
Then it's got the tarot size, or a little bit bigger than tarot size. I would say it's more of the size of Epic Tiny
Epic Kingdoms, Tiny Epic Zombies.
Tiny Epic Zombies.
The whole series, yeah.
That's big card. It's the same size as that. There's 3 of those, which represent your theaters, air, land, and sea. Those are also linen finish.
They are the same linen finish, yep.
Tokens are good thickness. They're all different size, very generic victory tokens.
Yeah, they are cardboard, like cardboard money, cardboard victory point tokens, yeah.
Kind of remind me of the side victory tokens that come in the original
Yeah,
size
in the box.
So
Yeah.
good quality token there.
Yeah.
I pulled it up on Amazon. Currently, it's $14.34.
Okay, that's what I would
mean,
guess. I guess about $15, yeah.
Would you pay $15 for something like this?
I would if you didn't own it already. Yeah, I don't. It's not the game that's entirely up my alley that I would go buy a second copy just to own it. Knowing that you have it is definitely sufficient for me. But if you're a wargamer again and you're trying to bridge that gap, or you're trying to get the quick fix, I think that's definitely.
What do you think about me using this to introduce non-gamers to light games? So I'm at the pub with maybe someone from outside of my gaming realm.
Not too bad. Again, I think anybody who's interested in history and things would pick up on it. I would think if they're not a history buff or something like that, there's probably some other games that I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, but there's probably some other quick little games like a Sushi Go or something like that.
That's a good point, because the abilities at the top, although they've given this game a very low complexity, it does take a lot of connecting dots on how to use them to...
Right, there's a lot of strategy in it. So again, I feel like if somebody knows how to play, if you were introducing somebody, unless you intentionally tried to go really easy on them, knowing the game is definitely a big advantage. And we said that when we started playing. The first couple times we played through, we were like, oh, wow, some of these abilities really can flip things just at the last card or the last two cards you play. If you don't know those cards are in the deck, somebody who does know that they're there and can potentially play them, it can flip the whole game on its head. And so it can turn a loss into a win or a win into a loss pretty quick. So, yeah, unless you intentionally were going easy on somebody, I'd see that it could be a little discouraging that way. But again, I mean, if somebody was a history buff and somebody's into World War II, the
that
theme
would probably
is...
get them over that hump.
Yeah, I think that would help. So, yeah.
Overall, my impressions of Air, Land, and Sea, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of game in this little package.
Yeah, I would say definitely an above average filler game. Definitely one that we're enjoying, and definitely one we'll keep playing. Like I say, I think we'll be pulling this out at Come On Expo or Dice Tower, some of those conventions that we go to while we're just hanging out.
Eating at the Varsity.
Yeah, at the Varsity in Atlanta. Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
This would be a perfect game for that.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's our impressions on Air, Land, and Sea by Arcane Wonders.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Check it out. And we'll be back. We'll come back with our reflections in the next segment to talk about what we've been up to, what we've been gaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, be right back.
You're listening to Beans and Dice.
Welcome back.
Welcome back,
Beans
yeah.
and Dice podcast. Carlos,
Rob?
and now we're going to talk about our reflections.
Yeah, just a little bit on some games that we played since last podcast. It's been, a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, closer to 4.
Okay,
I think,
4 weeks since last.
December, middle of December.
Okay.
It was right before the holidays. After we did our gift exchange was the last time we did reflections.
Okay, that's right. Okay. So, let's jump right in here. Game that I have played since our last that sticks in my mind, one of the, I think, the better games that I'd played is Rome. A Ryan Lockett game. BGG has it rated at a 7.6. The weight on that is 1.85. So not a heavyweight game. Pretty easy to learn. There's some neat concepts in it. But I borrowed this from Nick about mid-December, I think it was.
Yes.
And I played a couple times with my older two kids, 16 and 14, and they liked it quite a bit. Nick actually introduced it to me the first night after a game of Gloomhaven. Drawing a blank there. After one of our sessions of Gloomhaven, he pulled it out, and me and him and Joe, he taught me and Joe how to play it. Pretty quick game to learn. I mean, we learned it probably in 5 minutes or less, and we're playing. There are a couple different versions of the game. There's a real basic version where you're just laying out some tiles, and it's kind of an abstract, kind of an area control. There's 6 cards in the middle of the table, and you have colored tiles. Each player picks a color, and you're activating cards that allow you to play the tiles out onto the 6 cards, which are subdivided into It's 6 zones or 6 sections on each of the cards in the middle of the table, and the game is very spatial. You all sit at 4 different sides of the table, and you're laying out the. It's almost like the Tetris polyhedral shapes that match the cards that you have in front of you, and you're flipping them over to activate them and to be able to lay the tiles. And then as you're laying the tiles, you're trying to do an area control to fill up the 6 zones of one of the cards in the middle. Once the last tile is placed that fills up one of the cards, all 6 zones on one of the cards, you then look at that particular card. You kind of pull it out of the group. You then determine who had majority on that card. So whoever had the most tiles gets to actually take that card and put it in front of them and play that now as a new shape of tiles that they can play out in the future. And then you refill that card. There are coins that you can gather by placing your tiles on certain cards in the middle of the table. As you accumulate those coins, you can use those to the base game. The learning version of the game doesn't have the artifacts, the goodies that you can buy that give you some special abilities. I would never play the game without those artifact cards or those ability cards. Pretty easy just to add into the game. So at the end of your turn, after you've placed and you've resolved any cards, and pulled them out and gotten the coins for them, you can then, if you have enough coins, you can buy one of the artifact cards that come off a deck, and they give you some abilities that you can do throughout the game. But Nick introduced us to it. The playtime on the game is probably about 30 minutes, and I found that that's pretty consistent with the number of players. It's going to be a little shorter if you play. I think it's 2 to 4. I know it's a maximum of 4 players, but if you play 2, it's probably 20 minutes with 15, 20 minutes with 2 players. But what you're doing is you're playing until somebody has collected 10 cards in front of them, and then once somebody has 10 cards, that triggers the end of the game. Everybody, actually, not everybody gets a turn, but you complete the round. So there is a first player token. So whoever hadn't played in that particular round gets to finish out their turn, and then you count the total victory points. And so each card has a victory point number on the bottom of it. The artifacts that you can play with and buy each have victory points on them, and that's real simple with the scoring. That's really all you're counting up is those points on the cards that you acquired, and then the victory points on the artifacts that you acquired. But again, we played that. I think shortly after, was probably about a week within me getting it from Nick. We played. I think that was the first time.
Yeah, I have it down as the 21st of December.
Yeah,
was actually when we played it. I think we recorded. No, that we did not. But we didn't record that game, but we did play it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I think it was gorgeous.
Yeah,
right? The artwork's beautiful.
Yeah, Ryan Lockett, it's in his world, the same setting as Above and Below, Near and Far. He has one other game. It was an Islebound, I think that's all in the same world. It's the same artwork. Some of the characters on the cards are the same. So Ryan Lockett, undisputed, I think one of the best artists right now in board gaming. He does some really cool stylistic. You know when you see something from Ryan Lockett that it's Ryan Lockett's art. And then he also designs and I believe publishes all of his own games. So he's kind of a one-man show there with putting this stuff out. But yeah,
it's an engine building game.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
It's fun because I do like playing around and tinkering with an engine, just watch it work. I think one of the aspects I liked about this game the most is you're vying for control of one of the 6 cards laid down that makes the tableau of the game.
Yeah, kind of the game board
map.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then once you have filled that maps on one of those cards, so there's 6 spaces on each card. Once you filled all 6 spaces, you determine who has majority.
Yeah.
The player with majority wins the card. But it's not just winning that card; it's winning the ability on that card. Right. So every time you add or win one of those cards, you add it to your engine.
Right. To your
so
tableau.
Now it gives you another option in front of you of places that patterns that you can place on the center of the board.
That's a good way to explain it, yeah.
So I know that you've beat me, a few times in this game because you're focused on looking at the points that they're valued at. I watch you go after the big points.
Oh,
I
sure.
can see this
that
pattern.
happens, yeah.
I see this
It's
pattern.
a thing, yeah.
But I'm looking at the patterns available on each one and thinking to myself, well, that's a cool pattern.
Yeah.
I want that option in my engine.
Yeah.
So that when I win that card, I can now put this crazy pattern that lets me drop 2 tiles, optional drop, move a tile, kind of stuff.
Yeah, and one of the unique things again is I mentioned that you've got these cards in front of you, and you're building on your engine or your tableau in front of you as you pull cards from the middle. I didn't mention that you have to use each of the cards to then reset. So when it comes to your turn, if all of your cards have been flipped face down and you've used all of the patterns that you've got, then the first thing you do is you flip them all over and you start fresh with all of them. So as you mentioned, kind of pulling cards, giving you more options. It also can be a bad thing. I know you picked up on it pretty quick, that sometimes you kind of want to refresh, but I won a card on my last one, so I have to add that now. And when they come to you face up, so fresh, so that you haven't used them yet. So then on your next turn, you've got to use that and flip it face down. Sometimes you do that, and it actually wins you another card. So then you have to pull another one over, and so you kind of limit. And that's probably a bit of a catch-up mechanic. So when you're getting ahead and you're getting a bunch of cards,
the engine is big.
Yeah, you got a big engine, but a lot of them are exhausted, so you're having to use one, and you're kind of getting stuck in that thing before you can refresh them all and have all your options again. So,
which you did the smart thing. You would purchase an artifact that would allow you to exhaust, multiple cards, which would then exhaust. That would mean all your cards are exhausted,
to
and
refresh.
then you get the refresh.
Yep, to refresh everything.
You were going for, I need to refresh often.
Yeah.
I just kept going for the win.
Yeah, and the artifacts give you, I think there's 6 different abilities, and so they give you some neat things that you can chain together as well. They really go into your engine. They allow you to place extra tiles. They allow you to skip tiles. They allow you to remove some tiles. The game really is not adversarial, except for there is the one artifact that you can buy. There's 3 copies of it, I believe. Actually, 4 copies of it with different point values and different costs. But they allow you to, when you place your pattern, to replace one of your opponent's with yours. Normally, when you lay out a pattern, if an opponent is in the square that you need to go into, you can still play that pattern. You just don't get to place your tile. Their tile stays there, but there is one of the artifacts. There's actually the weapon set. I think there's like an axe and a sword and a bow, but they allow you to kind of kill or remove one of your opponent's tiles. But so other than that, the game is very non-backstabby. I mean, it's very much kind of playing your own, other than just vying for the abstract on the board.
But that is the backstabby.
A little bit, but
and that's what I like about it's not a direct conflict game, but every time somebody places something, it's almost the Ticket to Ride feeling of, I was planning on going there, sir.
Well, yeah.
You took my spot.
But you are limited by the shapes that you can play, and so usually you're playing the ones that just allow you to play the most tiles, so you really don't have the option a lot of times to block. I mean, sometimes you do. Sometimes you know somebody's going for something, and you play a shape that allows you to block.
You usually know it because it's got 2 coins when you take that space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So people are it kind of
competing for
incentivizes
those.
you to battle for those coin
spots. Yeah, that's
you
for
sure. You want to have that
Mm-hmm.
pattern available in your queue, so you can pop it and then lay that pattern on the board so that you step on or land on the coin icons.
Yeah.
So you're grabbing more coins as you go. You want all that to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And then when someone takes one of those spots that prevents you from going there, it's like, why am I even here?
Yeah, but again, I guess you're not usually looking and saying, hey, they want to go there, I'm going to go there. You're finding the best pattern for you that's going to allow you to collect some coins, get as many tiles out as possible. So
it still doesn't take away the feeling that I wanted to go there and you went there.
Oh, no doubt. But
you may not have been thinking that I wanted to go there, but I knew I wanted to go
there. I could usually predict. I was going to say, well, that's not going to be there by the time it gets to be my turn because somebody's going to jump on those 2 coins or those 3 coins or whatever. But I just was going to mention we also played it on New Year's Eve. You had a little thing at your house. You hosted, and we had a couple guys over, and we played it again there, introduced it to 2 more people, I believe, that night, and they both liked it. So I haven't played it with anybody yet.
Yeah, that was Mike, Nick, and Barry, and myself. We played that game.
So it was Barry.
I think you coached us through that game.
Yep.
The winner was it was a tie.
Oh, that's right.
I remember that. That was a tie between myself and Nick, 37 points each.
Yeah, I played it about 7 or 8 times, and that was the first time I'd seen a tie. So if you're tied,
wasn't there a tiebreaker?
It's the coins,
and then we tie break on.
And you tie with the coins even. So then after that, there was no tiebreakers.
I think that's where I was upset because you can't end in a tie.
Yeah.
You got to have a third tiebreaker.
It ended as a tie. So
it's in the rule book as a tie.
But I'd say overall impression of that game is that it was a fun game. Like I say, it's certainly not going to end up at the top of my charts anywhere, but definitely a good 30, 45 minute, again, almost a filler game, kind of a light. I would say it's borderline gateway, bringing new people into the hobby. It's easy enough to teach.
Yeah, 1.8 was it on the complexity?
Yeah,
1.8?
yeah. So it is pretty light, and if you want to leave out the artifacts, that takes some of that backstabby out of it, and it just play by laying tiles. You really can make make it a pretty simple game. But as far as a gamer goes, I would never play without those artifact tiles giving you those abilities. It just adds a little bit more to what's going on. But yeah, good game.
Yeah, Rome,
Yep.
Ryan Lockett.
Rome by Ryan Lockett. Yep.
We continued playing games throughout New Year's night. I'm just going to list a few of them that we played. We definitely got some Crokinole in because that's a must.
Yeah.
Crokinole's a fave. We played. I found out this right before New Year's that one of my favorite designers
Oh yeah.
also designed my favorite version of Yahtzee.
Who would have thought Yahtzee? Yeah.
So it's the version of Yahtzee my wife likes to play.
Yeah.
Yahtzee Free For All. Actually found out it was designed by Richard Borg.
Richard Borg, yeah.
Designer of Memoir 44, the Command and Colors series of games.
Wargamer.
So I asked you guys if you'd be willing to play that with me because I wanted to get that to the table again.
Yeah.
And I was glad to get that one to the table. It was pretty cool
It
to
was
see
fun. Yeah.
how designers branch out into mass market games.
Yeah.
But then I looked all over that box, and I looked all over the rule set, and I couldn't find his name attributed to it.
Yeah, maybe he didn't want anybody to know.
Well,
it is Yahtzee, but
it's a good version of Yahtzee.
It was. It was fun. Yeah, it's definitely a twist on Yahtzee, but yeah.
Or is it the big bad corporation that doesn't want to give credit to the designers?
Yeah.
Right, where they're not giving credit where credit is due for people that put in the work.
And it adds conflict to Yahtzee, as anybody who's played Yahtzee knows before. You're entirely just doing your own thing on your own piece of paper in Yahtzee. There really is no interaction with the other players at all. But this allows you to try to steal things from other people, and it adds conflict. It adds, Richard Borg, the war designer, adds a little war to Yahtzee. So it was cool. It was fun.
It was a good game.
Yep.
But I think for me, that stood out that week was Champions of Midgard.
Great game, yeah.
I got to introduce Mike Wilson to Champion of Midgard that week. I took away all the expansions, so I played it a few times with my kids.
Okay.
I have a 8-year-old boy, 12-year-old boy, so I took away all the expansions to kind of simplify the game, enjoy it for the push your luck feel of it. And I introduced it to Mike. It still reminds me of why we bought this game to begin with.
Yeah.
I know that a few of us own this game. It is a solid game.
Yeah, it's one that if a couple of you in the group didn't already have it, I certainly would own it. So
Yeah, it follows. So it's a worker placement game. It follows. I originally saw it as a clone of Lords of Waterdeep, and I'm a big Lords of Waterdeep fan. Lords of Waterdeep was a worker placement game that kind of combined thematic with worker placement. One of the first games to give you that Euro game mechanisms with a thematic fantasy feel, or again back to a Ameritrashy word, combination of games, which to me are the ones I like the most. But Champions of Midgard came out in 2015, and I felt we're just copying Lords of Waterdeep. I didn't want to like it.
Right. I
And
think
you kept telling me, "Oh, it's a great game."
I
you
tried to
gotta play
convince
it.
you. I'd played it at Dice Tower Con about a year before that, and it was one of my favorite games from that Dice Tower Con a few years ago.
Well, I was trapped in a war of two worlds where I was, that I couldn't believe. I felt like I couldn't believe that Champions of Midgard is good without saying that Lords of Waterdeep is bad. But I think I've accepted they're both good.
Yeah.
They are both good worker placement games. But which one would I play more? Probably Champions of Midgard.
Yeah.
Because it adds dice. Champions of Midgard is a worker placement game, but what you're doing is you're using those workers to get more dice. Dice represent your warriors. You take those warriors and you go to send them on adventures to go fight draugrs, trolls, and monsters to gain glory for your clan, for your Vikings. The player with most glory at the end of the game wins. You use those dice for combat. So each type of dice, a barbarian, axeman, a spearman, berserker, the shield maidens.
Yeah.
Right. They all have different sides on each of their facings for the dice that will give you shield results. They can cancel hits or double damage, or blanks. And you're going to take those dice, you're going to allocate them to different adventures, and then you're going to roll those dice against that monster to determine the combat resolution. So by adding the dice rolling piece of it, it goes into my heart of loving dice games, but it still is a worker placement. without all the expansions, the game is very swingy.
Yeah.
It's very luck driven.
Sure. Yeah.
I look at it as a push your luck mechanism to the game. So it is a push your luck game, is how I see it.
Yeah.
So it's how far can I take this group of dice? How far do I want to try to keep pushing forward to try to get monsters and get glory? But once you add the Valhalla expansion and the Mountains expansion, it starts to mitigate that luck. You have ways of, which I love about the Valhalla expansion, is when you send those dice to go fight and they die fighting a Draugr, the dice turn into chits. So they're little souls.
Yeah.
And you put them on your little Valhalla table. So
Mm-hmm.
before, without the expansion, you'd send them to go fight a Draugr, and you'd lose the battle. All your dice are dead. All right, and you go back to square one. In the Valhalla expansion, you send those guys to die, and they all die, but now you're happy because you got a bunch of chits.
Yeah.
So you're like, go on, fight them, die.
And that really could make a big difference in the result of the game without the expansion, without the Valhalla. I played it the first 2 times. I think at Dice Tower without the expansion. The expansions hadn't come out yet, and I really liked the game. But you could really, if one player got a couple lucky rolls in a battle and was able to have most of their dice survive, and another player had a couple of bad rolls and killed all their dice, then you were spending the next couple of rounds having to rebuild your dice pool, and you really could fall behind, and there was really no way to catch up. So the Valhalla, I definitely would highly recommend anybody who owns this game. I would say it's an automatic buy. I don't even know that I'd recommend buying the base game and then maybe buying Valhalla later. I would say buy it, put it right in from the start. It really.
I don't even think you need the Mountains expansion.
Mountains expansion, not really. It doesn't add a whole lot.
That's just more of the first game.
Adds 1 or 2 types of dice on your side, fighters. Then I think it adds 1 or 2 types of baddies. Okay.
And then it adds a different type of baddie.
Okay.
And then it just gives you more cards for the baddies that are already there.
And the set collection part of the game is the other part that's a big part of it. So as you're beating the bad guys, you're trying to there's I think 3 or 4 different colors of cards for the bad guys, and so there is a set collection aspect of deciding the bad guys are face up each round, and you refill a
red, yellow, or blue.
Blue, I think. Okay,
are the 3 colors.
And so at the end of the game, for having one of each color, for every one of each set of 3, you get so many points.
5 glory.
Okay, so it's 5 glory. You played more recently than I have, but yeah, so you remember. But so you're really going for that. So the cards again are reset face up, and then after you've done all of your actions on the board, you go around the board, and each person gets to take their fighters and put them or to do battles on different ones as they placed them out. So as you're doing your worker placement, you're part of that is deciding, hey, there's 3 trolls or whatever at the top of the board here. I need a blue troll, and so I need to be the first one to jump on that so that I can fight that troll, hopefully win that battle and get to pull that card into my hand for the set collection. But there's a race for the good spots on the board to do things. There's a race for the bad guys of which order you want to take them. There's boats that some of the bad guys you beat, you have to go on little excursions. You have to get on a boat.
I love the boat mechanism.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
You have to place your worker on the ship.
Yep.
So either you buy a ship that you can use your own, or you got to go on the public ship.
Use
you gotta get on the
community
bus.
ship. Yeah.
You gotta go on the community bus, and then you send your dice to go fight. But first, they have to go on a journey.
When you have to bring food.
You have to bring food,
Right.
Because you got to feed them.
Right. You got to feed them on the
And,
journey.
the journeys that are farther away cost you more food to feed.
Yep.
And then you flip a journey card, and it could be anything from calm,
All's quiet.
all's
yeah.
quiet,
Yeah.
a windy day,
Yeah.
right? So you get there quicker, everything's well. It could be a
like a
kraken. You
yeah.
gotta fight a monster on the way there,
Yeah.
or a
extra
whirlpool,
battle.
and you lose food and dice on the way to your destination.
Yeah, you have to sacrifice so many food or so many warriors, and so you may have to throw over food. And then once they arrive, if you didn't have enough food to feed all the fighters, then you have to kill off some of your fighters before you actually even go into the battle.
Yeah,
So
you show up at the battle and you got like half the dice you left with.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah, it's definitely a cool mechanic. So,
But you can mitigate that because you can go see the seer. And
Yeah.
the seer is going to give you a card that lets you have some secret points to have at the end of the game. But she also allows you to look at one of the
peek.
journey cards face down to see, what's the seer see for that journey.
which path you might be able to get away and have it all quiet or something. So yeah,
okay, so there's a variant of the game that I saw in the rules, And I thought about for us, us bigger guys, not the kids, but playing with our winnings, right? So when you take a monster and you defeat him, you put him face down in front of you. Remember, you're collecting sets, red, blue, and yellow. You're looking for a set of 3 different colors to be 5 victory points at the end of the game. So there's a variant where you play with all the cards, all the monsters you defeat.
Oh, face up.
Face up. So now you're looking around the table to see who needs what to finish their game.
Wow.
Who needs what to finish that set. So I can see that you've got 2 blue, 2 yellow, and 1 red.
Wow. Well, that really takes the worker placement part of it and amps that up even more, because if I see that you need red, I have to decide, am I going to go over here and get some food? Am I going to go over here and get a couple of extra fighters? Or am I going to go fight that red monster, which I don't really need, but I know you need for a bonus 5 points. So just to stop you from getting that and taking those points, I can lock that up for you, and you have to go somewhere entirely different. So,
what do you think about playing with something like that?
I think it'd be neat to try. Definitely, like you say, that's very, very backstabby. So, yeah, that probably wouldn't go as well with the kids or with the wives or anything. But yeah,
I like taking these Euro type games and getting some more planar interaction into them and that backstabbiness. I think that's a must try. That's one of the games I've recently played.
Yeah. Something we both recently played several times is the Funkoverse. I think maybe in our last podcast or one of the last couple, we had talked a little bit about that was a game that we were interested in and we wanted to try. And I remember I talked about...
We bought it for the kids.
Yeah, we did. And
it's
both...
for the kids.
Oh, of course.
I swear, it's for the kids.
Yeah, it's for the...
we do everything we do is for the kids.
I wouldn't buy a game with dolls in it. I mean, they're basically dolls, right, that you're playing with. So come on. But
I'm brushing Hermione's hair.
Yeah. But we're both really enjoying it, I think. Again, light skirmish game. There is a lot more complexity to this game than you would first realize. They have there's 2 4-packs, I think, that come with the bigger boards, and they come with 4 of the characters. There's one that's based on the Harry Potter world, and there's one based on it's DC.
Batman.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. Julian, my middle child, got the Batman one for Christmas.
There you go. Okay, and
Actually,
then
3 Kings Day.
And then there's expansions. There's 2 player, 2 figure expansions that you can buy. There's one expansion for the Harry Potter. There's one for the DC. There's the Golden Girls, and then there's Rick and Morty. I believe is the other one.
The 2 packs.
Yeah, the little 2 packs. They come with a little board and a little skirmishy game of their own, which I just found out.
They are
today.
a full game on their own.
Right.
That's what I love about those
Okay.
little packs is it comes with everything you need to play that game in a 2-figure mode.
Okay, so
It's
normally
a smaller scenario.
So normally the game is 3-on-3. It's
Right.
basically a 2-player game, although you can split it and do 4. I think that's
2v2.
kind of garbage.
But most
yeah.
2-player games can be done 2v2, but not well.
Right. It's definitely a 1-against-1. So in the full version of the game, you're playing 3 characters against 3 characters, and you can mix up the sides. You don't have to play the good guys and the bad guys. Like in Harry Potter, I could take Hermione, I could take Bellatrix, and I can play a bad guy and a good guy and mix it up. But you can mix the sets.
That's the fun part.
Yeah, that's going to be the fun part, and the possibilities going in the future are just infinite. I mean, if they can get the IP, I can't imagine.
I mean, right now we're what? Batman, Golden Girls,
yeah,
Harry Potter, and
Rick and Morty.
The combinations right now seem like fun.
Oh yeah, and it's bizarre. And there's levels to this game that you don't realize. So it's a skirmish game. You're usually going around trying to knock your opponents out, knock them off the board.
There's multiple scenarios.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, there's a capture the flag kind of scenario. There's one
area control.
There's
the leaders. That was fun. Where the leaders, you nominate leaders on each team. And you get extra bonus points for either killing a leader or using the leader to kill.
Right. Yeah. And so you 1, 2, 3, or 4 points depending on who it is that knocks out who. And I mean it's
there's waypoints on the map that you get victory points for interacting with those waypoints.
There's a cooldown system, so anytime you use an item or cast a spell, you have tokens that go on a cooldown of a track that's numbered 1 through 4. So the more hard-hitting or the really cooler spells, usually you're going to have to place that token on the 4, and you're going to have to wait 4 rounds for that to come back off for you to be able to cast that again. You can. I've heard of people doing drafts with the sets. You buy all the sets. You draft the characters. You draft the items that they're going to use. All of the spells and all of your I don't know what you call them, the tokens, the chits that you use to cast the spells
The
or
ability,
to use
ability tokens.
ability tokens. They all go in basically in one pool. So I for taking a certain character, you get a couple of certain tokens, but you don't have to use those on that character. So I could draft a character just to get 2 yellow spells, but then I have another character who has cooler yellow spells, and I can use those chits on the other character. They kind of just go all in one big pool. So you can
No, that happened often
Yeah.
because when I played against my son, who's 8, he figured it out. He's got Harry Potter and Hermione, but Hermione's not casting spells.
Yeah.
She's just there to provide those spell ability tokens so that Harry can use them to cast his more powerful spells.
Yeah, and each player has an innate ability, an ability that they just have all the time. Like in that example, Hermione, anytime she's adjacent to another character and she's standing up, another player can't be knocked off the board. So you kind of want to keep her in a support role, kind of keep her around the other characters. Her downside is on defense, she only rolls 1 die, so she's easy to knock down herself. But it makes
Harry Potter can cast a Protego, which gives her additional defense dice on the next defense roll. So
2
there's a lot
extra
of
dice, yeah.
synergy there.
Oh yeah.
What I'm looking forward to seeing is the brokenness.
Oh
Like
yeah.
what happens when, Morty gets paired up with, I don't know, Harlequin,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mm.
How are their actions and abilities going to combine? What kind of crazy powers are that going to come together with?
Yeah, it's really going to be interesting to see how Funko does that in the future, whether they really support this game, whether they continue. They already have so many IPs, with the Funko toy line that they have. They're already into so many different things, so they could take this in so many different directions. But like you say, it'll also be interesting to see if they do continue to support it and come out with new stuff, how much they're really going to work on the balancing and making sure that the game continues to be balanced and be fun. But yeah, it's the company's first board game ever. It's the first time they've tried, and I've heard recently, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, the next one, but they've actually announced now that they are working on and will soon be putting out a different game, which will be their second game, and we'll see if it has the same success. But right now, we're both really enjoying this game. We're playing it with the kids.
It is
we
a
both play
lot
with our
better
kids.
than I expected.
Yeah, me too.
This was a gift for the kids.
Yeah.
It's all for the kids.
Yeah, and I had been
Everything's for the
I had been
kids.
eyeballing it for a while because I kept hearing so many people rave about it online, and I was like, "Wow!" I mean, it doesn't look like there's much to it, but then when you get it and you open up the box,
And you see it at Target, so you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I mean, it's sitting right next to getting saxy with.
yeah. some of the not so good stuff that's out there. So it was really a surprise, but a pleasant surprise, and I definitely would recommend it to anybody who's got kids. Again, pretty much I'd say a gateway skirmish game.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Skirmish wise, 2-player.
mm,
You and a buddy playing something for 30 minutes or so. 30 to 40 minutes tops. It's it.
kind of punching each other in the face, just having fun, knocking each other around, and kind of laughing about it. And yeah, it's a good time.
That was Funkoverse Harry Potter edition.
Yep.
Now, we'll see how it goes when we bust out the Batman version.
Oh yeah,
It's sitting
yeah.
over there.
Mixing them up.
I played some Skull. So I
Mhm.
played a lot of Skull. We had our game day, our January game day.
I missed that, but yeah,
which
first one I missed.
happened-
Yeah.
You were camping.
Yep.
It happened the first weekend of January. I was worried about the turnout because it's New Year's.
It was right after. It was like the 3rd or something, wasn't it? It was a Saturday, so it was just a few days after New Year's, I think.
We had a busy day of gaming, and I ended up at the end of the day playing Skull at the ale house near the game shop.
Yep.
We went back there, had some chicken wings, and played Skull through that evening with a new gamer, a friend of mine. No, he's not a gamer at all. He wasn't even there for the games. He just happened to be there, and that's how nice Skull is. A would you call it a party game?
Yeah, I mean it's classified as a card game, and it really is a card game. They almost look like coasters that you're playing with.
Yes.
They're round cards.
I was
so-
afraid that someone would start putting their drinks.
Yeah,
on
see, I'd be a little afraid about playing it at a restaurant or a bar or something, just because somebody might mistake it for a coaster. But yeah, it is I think it's classified as a card game, and it's a bluffing game. I know a lot of people have compared it to the classic like Liar's Dice.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's kind of a card version of that.
So it's a bluffing game. It was easy to teach. It was fun to play. It's I think $20 on Amazon. So that was definitely a hit. But that was the end of the night.
Yeah.
On our game night. What had me feeling good that night was two games of Twilight Imperium.
Well, I was going to mention we have
played.
to touch on Twilight Imperium. Yeah.
2 games of TI4 were played
simultaneously, so not back to back, but yeah.
Yep, they were going on at the same time. We had 2 tables going. It's plays Twilight Imperium plays 6 players. We had 7 folks who wanted to play, but we had what was great is we actually had 1, 2, 3, 4 copies of Twilight Imperium show up to the game
Same
shop.
place at the same time.
All in the. I mean, we could have ruptured the space-time continuum with that much Twilight Imperium in one place.
Yeah.
We ended up splitting up the party into 2 parties, 1 3-player game, 1 4-player game. I played in the 3-player game. Nick Obin, Brian Zeno, Scott Horn, and Kai played in the 4-player game. I played with Lonnie and Barry. I ended up playing. This is video. You'll see the video attached if you go to the YouTube channel. It talks more about it. But I got my first win.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the big thing is you've played probably at least 10 times at least.
More.
Yeah,
I bought it when it came out.
That's your first time you've ever won. So
yeah, it had to be a 3-player game though. So
Yeah.
people are trying to take that win from me.
Oh yeah, that is a little cheap.
A
but,
win is a win. By an inch or by a mile,
Yeah.
a win is a win. So that is still one of my favorite games. I ask myself, why don't I get this to the table more?
Yeah. Well, it's such a big game, and that's why it'll never be. I know I'm kind of infamous in the group for that. I'm one of the few people who's played it who would never, I don't think, put it at the top of my list. It is fun. It is an experience. It's something that I enjoy doing a couple of times a year. But it's not something that I can play on any kind of like monthly basis. It's definitely not one of my favorite games. And again, we've had this conversation a bunch of times, but in that amount of time, the 6 to 8 hours, even in this new streamlined version, that it takes you to play, I'd rather any day play 3 2-hour games and have 3 different experiences instead of having one big epic. Again, I understand what it is, and I do enjoy playing a couple of times a year. But that's enough
It's number
for me.
6
Yeah, number 6 all time. Yeah,
all time overall. Number 6
Yeah.
rated on BGG.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see the appeal. Again, it is an epic game. I think a lot of people only play it a couple of times, and they do have a great opinion of it. The first few times I played it, I thought it was pretty great. But then again, when I started to think about it, I was like, man, that was, well, back then we were playing, they were 8, 10, 12-hour sessions. We'd break them up with a little lunch or something. Yeah, when I started thinking about it, man, I could have played 3 or 4 games in the amount of time I played that one.
But
Yeah.
it feels like you played 3 or 4 games
I don't think
in
so.
that one
Yeah.
game because each round or segment of rounds feels like a game unto itself. Did I meet my goals for this turn?
Yeah.
Right. All right. I get a new turn. Let's refresh. Let's reset. Try again. So it's like it feels like each hour is a game unto itself.
And I usually do pretty well. And I had a string there, I think, of like 3 times in a row that we had played that I'd finished second. I know I've won it at least once. I think the very first time we played was actually TI3. I won. It was like an 8 or 9 player game.
Oh God,
back
that was
then.
at my old house.
Yeah, at your old house.
It was a small house,
Yeah.
and we played with all the expansions.
It was like a 12-hour game.
Yep.
And I won it. And which usually for me is a good sign.
It was almost a fist fight.
Oh, yeah.
I
Not
remember that.
involving either one of us. But, yeah, it got a little ugly between 2 of the other
Dude,
players.
those
but-
emotions are what make me want to come back to this game.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that. I know Nick says the same thing, that the memories and the emotions that each time you play it. But on the flip side, even though my point there that I've been successful in it, it is a game that if you get behind, and I'd say I've probably played it 6 or 7 times, and there's been once or twice that fairly early in the game things didn't go my way, and people were moving up the track, and
I don't know what you mean.
fell behind.
What is that? I've never had that happen.
Yeah. I know, and that's why I'm a little surprised that you like it so much. Is because, like, not to poke fun, but as you've admitted, you haven't normally been as successful in that game, and you must really just enjoy the experience. Because
I do. I love building my little slice
Yeah.
of the universe. Whether I win or not, I'm all about building that one galaxy with my race, whatever it is, and doing that as well as I can. Not worry about winning.
well,
But
it's
if I'm
just-
going to have the most space cannons, I'm going to have the most and the best space cannons that you ever saw. No one will have greater space cannons than I have.
Like I said, this is definitely a game that if you fall behind, you really feel like, oh my God, I'm going to be playing this game for another 6 hours, and I have almost no chance to win, and I'd rather be somewhere else playing something else, and or again playing 2 or 3 or 4 games that I might have a chance of competing in. So if you get down in it, for me it really drags. If you're doing well and it's competitive and it's a close game, it's a great game. But yeah,
I think you do well in it because you do well at laying low.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The easiest way to lose at Twilight Imperium is to be the leader.
Yeah, and to go and attack and be really super aggressive.
And that's what allowed me to win this game. Barry came in turn 2. He wanted to hit Mechatol Rex, and he did. He got there.
Yeah.
He took the center of the board and was all feeling great about his chances at winning. But what happens early on in the game, he left his home, his home world. He left it unguarded.
He tends to do that. I played with him 3 or 4 times now, and he seems to always overextend and
because he goes right for Mechatol Rex.
Yeah.
So I went and I put some units adjacent to Mechatol Rex to do some little skirmish battling there. Meanwhile, I've got a fleet sneaking around my right towards Barry's homeworld.
Oh yeah, going the long way.
Yeah, I went the long way, and then ended up at his homeworld. Took all 3 of his planets.
Wow, that's
if you don't have control of one planet on your home
world,
system, you cannot score victory points. Cannot score victory points unless you have control of all the planets in your home system.
Completely negates Mechatol Rex and all that. Yep.
So he immediately regrouped all his units, took off from Mechatol Rex, and started heading straight back for the home world. I dropped my favorite. This is why I love this game. My favorite part was I dropped a nuclear or reactor meltdown on him. So once I took his home worlds, I destroyed his space base. It's a space station, which allowed him to produce units.
Yep.
He had 2 space stations left on the board, one at Mechatol Rex and one in the center of the board, in between Mechatol and his home system. So I did a nuclear meltdown on the space station adjacent to his home system. So he lost his home system space base. He lost his adjacent space station. And then as soon as we took over Mechatol Rex, because he left it, he lost that space station.
Nice.
He could not produce any more units until he built another space station.
So it was done. And that's one of those games that it would be hopeless. You'd feel like for the next 2 hours, it's like, oh, what have I done?
But he said it. He said, I don't care if I win this game. The rest of this game will be spent destroying you, Carlos.
Yeah.
And those weren't the words he used. The words he used, I won't use here in front of everyone.
Oh, yeah.
But he was up. He was. See, and you can't have those kinds of emotions on a 30-minute game.
Yeah.
When we're playing Air, Land, and Sea, you're thinking, oh, I'll just lose the game. That way we can re-rack and play again. There's no emotions tied to it.
Yeah.
But when you're 7 hours into a game,
the
emotions can't help but come out. Twilight Imperium, probably the best game I've played since our last cast.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's a fun game. Like I say, a couple times a year is good for me, and I can really invest in it and be mentally prepare for it and get into it. But yeah, that's a game I can't play more than maybe a couple times a year. So
what else are you playing?
I don't know. Let's see. What else have we played recently?
Any acquisitions for you?
No, I've got a couple. I know Muhammad has a seller who is setting aside a copy of Mechs vs. Minions, a game that I've wanted.
You've been
and kind of eyeballing
that is your
that
holy
for
grail game.
7, 8, 9 years now, and it's just one of those. It's not a super expensive. It's not super hard to get. It's a little harder than normal to get because there were limited runs of it. But it's just one that I've just never have gotten, and I've actually never played it. But I've always wanted a copy. It's a massive box, so I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put it, but I'll be acquiring that soon for sure. Mike Lorenzo has set aside a copy of the expansion for Wingspan that he's going to get to me here, hopefully pretty directly. But that's a great game that I enjoy. I've played Wingspan probably 9, 10 times now. And again, never had a bad experience with it. Everybody who's played it has liked it. It's not number one on anybody's list, but just a real fun engine building game, real pretty game as we've talked about before. But there's an expansion, the European Birds, that adds another 100 cards or 120 cards to the decks, and so I'm really looking forward to getting that in my collection. But how about you? Anything you picked up recently? Or
I picked up Blitzkrieg, so it's still in shrink. I'm going to do an opening unboxing video on that one this week. I'll get that one filmed. back to that theme, another war game with Euro mechanisms.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. It seems like there's a theme out there with what's being produced, and Undaunted Normandy, Blitzkrieg, Air, Land, and Sea, just these blends of wargaming and Euro gaming. I'm excited about that. I picked up battle mats, so I've got from Mats by Mars. I've got some Blood Bowl pitches, so I've got Blood Bowl pitches for 7s, so it's a different version of Blood Bowl with less players, smaller pitch, and then I've got 3 of those now, and then I've got a pitch for a mat for the Blood Bowl's pitch. I got to play Blood Bowl this last week with Brian out at Armada Games. Played a 7s game, and he's a very experienced player. I'm not. I'm still new at it, but I was able to get the win. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
It's a very tactical game, and I think I'm playing a lot on the Xbox right now.
Oh, really?
Because the Xbox Blood Bowl 2 on the Xbox uses the same rules as Blood Bowl. So it's effectively the same game, except for it's all on the Xbox. I've been playing a lot of that to try to get my strategy down and learn the game, because I'm really hoping for 2020 to be the year that I get into the tournament scene for Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
So I played some of that. We played Flashpoint Fire Rescue.
Oh, yeah. We played that just 2 nights ago.
At Cool Stuff Games. So
Yeah.
you introduced me to that one. That's going on my acquisition list. I think I want to buy that one.
Cool. Yeah.
I felt like that could replace Pandemic.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely got a Pandemic feel to it. I think maybe a little lighter than Pandemic. Not quite as strategic. It's a smaller board. You're kind of just running in. I like the theme a lot. You're fighting a fire.
That's what it is. The theme.
It's the theme. It's really cool.
It's a little stressful.
Yeah.
The theme, the presence of the fire, the explosion of the fire. So when the fire starts to spread and it explodes, it causes damage to the walls. The more damage to the walls you get, the faster the building falls, and all that pressure is a little different than the global scale of Pandemic. So that one I really enjoyed. I thank you for bringing that one.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
And then today I got to play some Command and Colors.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Bohr Command and Colors,
Max, yeah.
Napoleonics with Max. So I played the side of the British. He played the French, and he trounced me.
Because it was pretty one-sided from what I heard. Yeah.
It was a trouncing.
Yeah.
It was 5-0. I had 0. I could not win a battle. But in the Command and Colors games, they're not balanced scenarios. We know that.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you'd heard.
It's all historical.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but that's not how it's meant to be played. You play one side, you're the French, and I'm the British, and we count up how many medals you got, and then we swap
Flip it.
sides.
Yeah.
And then we count up the total amount of medals that each player earned on each side to determine the overall player winner. So I'm hoping Max and I will get together this week and be able to swap sides, and maybe I can get.
He may not give you that
medals.
opportunity.
Well, we recorded that session on video. I'm going to edit it into one play, and then we're going to sit down and talk about what we did and why we did it as we watch that played, and that'll be the final gameplay. It'll be one of my first gameplay videos that I'm going to put up. So he will be coming back to do the audio. My hope is to get my rematch there.
Cool.
Let me play the French.
Yeah.
Make him come to me.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Frenchie.
So that was that. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
of
we've done.
games.
Yeah, well, it's been a month, like you said. So we've gotten some games in, and there's probably a few others that we are not remembering. But
Swords and Sorcery.
Oh, Swords and Sorcery. Yeah, we had our
did-
first experience with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I want to get back to it. We just played the opening scenario, but we definitely need to get the guys back together. And
I saw Will tonight. We had dinner with his lovely wife, my wife and I, and he said he did buy the expansion for it.
yeah, he said
He
that.
bought a 3D printer and has been doing nothing but printing like extra bits and boxes for the game.
Yeah,
So
cool.
he's looking to get us going on that. So we did play Swords and Sorcery.
Yeah,
But it's been another good few weeks of gaming.
yeah, absolutely.
Game group is going strong. We're planning our February game night.
Yeah,
I'm going to be hosting a game of Memoir 44 Overlord.
Overlord. Yeah, big one.
4 versus 4. It's set in the World War II setting. My hope is that you will play the German Supreme Commander.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, for sure.
I will play the Allied Supreme Commander.
Head to head.
So the Axis, I'm the Allied.
Tete-a-tete.
And then I'm going to have 3 generals in front of me. Those are 3 different players. You'll have 3 different players in front of you.
Do we get to pick our teams, or
Well, we'll see who.
all right, so who signs
I
up?
think we'll draft depending on who shows
Okay,
up.
let's do a draft. That'd be fun.
We'll draft those players, and then
I know who I'm taking.
We'll go head to head. in a 4v4 epic World War II game.
Yeah, excellent. And just looking ahead a little bit, I know we are talking about trying to get a little more consistent with putting out some content. I know you've been doing, you put out a few things recently.
Little snippets of stuff.
Yeah, little voiceovers, which actually I think came out really, really nice.
Thank you.
I wasn't involved in that at all, but yeah, you did a really good job with those. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to continue filling some of those gaps with that. But we are going to try to get on a little regular schedule. Hopefully in our content, you're noticing that we are trying to be a little more structured in the way we're putting out our episodes. So we'll continue working on that. And
but we need your feedback.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We need the feedback of the fans, of the listeners, to tell us what looked well, what didn't go well, what things didn't go well, what could have been done better.
Yeah.
Comment in the YouTube chatter.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think, what we could do different. I'm very much focused on audio quality because I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's how I intake my medium.
Yeah.
I'm a listener more than I am a visual watcher. I know you are the complete opposite.
Well, I do it through YouTube, so yeah. Even though I'm not watching all the time, it definitely is the YouTube thing. So I'm got a lot of those videos up. So, but yeah, I definitely I like to see some things. I can't go a long time just listening, so I have to have some visual there. So that's what we're hoping. We kind of have the best of both worlds here, where we're fully focusing on the audio, but we've got some video stuff as well. So
I'm trying to get better with the video. We're continuing each cast that we've done. You've seen a different setup, a different a location, a different angle, different lighting. We're just trying to see what works. We're not professionals at this. We're just a couple of game guys who like to play games and like talking about games, so we thought we'd share.
Yeah, please comment. Please let us know what you think of the channel. If there's suggestions on segments that you'd like to see, or anything, tips on sound or on video.
I mean, if you're a content creator yourself,
absolutely,
we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us how you do it, what you do differently, or what we could do differently to improve what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that wraps us up this week, and again, we'll try to get on a schedule. I know ultimately we're thinking maybe weekly, if we can start putting out a.
I'm still pushing for once every other week.
Every other week, okay.
Yep.
Well,
so 2-week schedule. I know that we didn't publish during the holidays.
Yeah.
Because it was the holidays. But my hope is to have almost a every other week schedule, an A side and a B side to each month. 2 podcasts each month, where we focus on a game we just played, and talk about that experience, and then we go into the reflections part, where we talk about different things we've played, purchases we've done, other hobby aspects that we've been achieving on, and kind of share those reflections.
Yeah.
So thanks again for listening,
Yeah.
and we will look for you in the comments.
Yeah, keep on gaming, and send us your feedback.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one. Enjoy your beans and dice.
Yeah.